The silence of the Montana wilderness was the first thing that had drawn Ethan here, a vast, breathing quiet that felt more alive than any city's roar. But today, the silence was broken. It was a small, ugly sound, a frantic scrape-thump, that was utterly alien to the sigh of the wind through the lodgepole pines and the distant cry of a hawk. It was a sound of struggle, sharp and metallic and desperate, and it pulled at him with an invisible thread of wrongness. Ethan lowered his camera, the heavy lens feeling suddenly trivial. For an hour he had been tracking the path of the sun as it bled across the western ridges, searching for the perfect shot of alpenglow on the peaks. Now, the light was forgotten. He moved cautiously, his boots making soft imprints in the pine needle-strewn earth. The sound grew louder, accompanied by a low, guttural hiss of exertion. He rounded a granite outcrop, its surface warmed by the dying sun, and froze. There, against the skeletal remains of an old cattle fence left to rust for decades, was a king. A golden eagle, immense and magnificent, its plumage the color of burnished bronze and dark chocolate, was hopelessly entangled. A single cruel strand of barbed wire had looped around its right wing, biting deep into the powerful muscle and bone near the joint. Its talons, lethal weapons capable of snapping the spine of a fox, were gouging uselessly at the packed earth. Its other wing beat the air in a clumsy, heartbreaking rhythm, stirring up dust and loose feathers. The bird was exhausted, its breathing a ragged pant, its body trembling not from cold, but from sheer, prolonged terror and effort. Ethan felt a cold, not tighten, in his stomach. This was a creature of the endless sky, a symbol of wild, untamable freedom, now tethered to the earth by a forgotten scrap of human negligence. He took a single, slow step forward. The eagle's head snapped up, its eyes, the color of molten gold, locked onto his. They were not just the eyes of a panicked animal. They held an ancient, intelligent fire, a blazing fury that seemed to pin him to the spot. A low, warning growl rumbled in its chest. It was a prisoner, but it was still a predator. Every instinct in its body screamed that he, the man, was the ultimate threat. He was 100 yards from his truck, miles from any town, and utterly alone with a creature that was equal parts magnificent and mortally dangerous. The setting sun cast long, distorted shadows that stretched between them like prison bars, and in the profound quiet that fell, Ethan knew that his next move could mean the difference between life and a slow, agonizing death for the bird, and perhaps serious injury for himself. The eagle flexed its talons in the dirt, a silent promise of the violence it could unleash. The standoff had begun. The air grew cold as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the mountains into a deep purple twilight. The eagle's golden eyes seemed to gather the last of the light, glowing with an intensity that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the immense silence. He knew he couldn't leave it. To walk away would be to condemn this creature to a death of exhaustion and starvation, a final, undignified end at the mercy of coyotes. Slowly, deliberately, he unzipped his heavy canvas jacket. He held it open, a gesture of disarmament, of vulnerability. "Easy now," he murmured, his voice a low, calm rumble that he hoped conveyed no threat. "I'm not going to hurt you. Just want to help." The words were for him, not the bird, a mantra to steady his own trembling hands. The eagle watched his every move, its head cocked, its body tense as a coiled spring. Any sudden gesture, any flicker of aggression, and it would lash out. He took another step, then another, moving with the glacial patience he usually reserved for stalking elusive wildlife with his camera. He didn't approach head-on, but circled slowly, giving the bird space, letting it track him. He could see the damage now, and it was worse than he'd thought. The barbs had torn through the delicate membrane of the wing, and dark, sticky blood matted the feathers. The bone was likely fractured. He needed to get close. He needed to cut the wire. His multi-tool, heavy in his pocket, had a pair of wire cutters. But to use them, he would have to touch the eagle. He would have to control a panicked, powerful predator with nothing but his bare hands and a piece of fabric. He took a deep breath, the cold, pine-scented air doing little to calm him. This was it. In one fluid, committed motion, he lunged forward and draped the jacket over the eagle's head and body. All hell broke loose. The world erupted in a muffled explosion of furious, thrashing power. He felt the terrifying strength of the bird as it fought against the cloth, its talons scrabbling for purchase, its body a bundle of pure, desperate muscle. He threw his own body weight against it gently, pinning it not with force, but with a steady, unyielding pressure against the ground. He could feel its wild heartbeat, a frantic, terrified pulse against his own chest. "Shoo, it's okay, you're okay," he whispered, his face pressed against the rough canvas, the scent of dust and wildness and blood filling his senses. His hands fumbled for the multi-tool. He got the cutters out, the metallic clicked deafeningly loud. Working blind, by feel alone, he located the wire. It was taut, buried deep in the feathers. The eagle struggled again, a wave of panic rolling through its body. He held it firm, his knuckles brushing against the sharp barbs. He positioned the cutters, squeezed with all his might. The old wire was tough. His muscles screamed in protest. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, with a loud snap, the wire broke. The tension was gone. The eagle's body went limp beneath the jacket, not in surrender, but in utter, bone-deep exhaustion. He had freed it from the fence, but now he held its life, fragile and heavy, in his hands. The wild creature was still, wrapped in darkness, and a profound, uncertain silence descended once more upon the mountain. Had he saved it, or merely prolonged its suffering? Ethan carried the eagle back to his remote cabin like a fallen deity wrapped in a burial shroud. The bird was terrifyingly still, its weight both a burden and a profound responsibility. Inside, by the dim glow of a single lantern, he dared to remove the jacket. The eagle lay on a bed of old blankets, its one good eye fixing him with a gaze that was no longer purely hostile. It was replaced by a wary, exhausted watchfulness. The wounded wing was a ruin of torn feathers and blood, the bone clearly broken. He was no veterinarian, but he had a first aid kit and a deep-seated respect for the wild. He gently cleaned the wound with antiseptic wipes, his every touch slow and deliberate. The eagle flinched but did not fight back, as if some primal part of it understood the intent. He fashioned a crude splint from a piece of kindling and medical tape, immobilizing the wing against the bird's body. He knew it was a long shot. He set out a shallow dish of water and a piece of fish he had in the freezer, then retreated to the far side of the small cabin, giving the bird its space. The days that followed were a quiet, meditative ritual. Ethan would sit for hours, reading or simply watching the play of light on the wooden walls, while the eagle observed him from its corner. There was no sound between them, but the whisper of turning pages and the soft rustle of feathers as the bird shifted its weight. A silent, unspoken trust began to form in that shared space, a bond forged in mutual vulnerability. The eagle began to eat. It would stand on its powerful legs, its gaze never leaving him, and tear at the fish he provided. It was a sign. It was choosing to live. After 2 weeks, the moment came. The eagle was stronger. It could hop across the floor and would stretch its good wing, a magnificent fan of gilded feathers. The splint, he knew, had done all it could. He opened the cabin door wide. The crisp morning air, smelling of damp earth and snow melt, flooded the room. The eagle hopped to the threshold, its talons clicking on the wooden floor. It looked out at the vast, blue expanse of the sky, its home, its kingdom. Then it turned its head and looked directly at Ethan. The gaze held no fear, no anger. It was a look of clear, intelligent acknowledgement, a communication that transcended language. It was a look of equals. The eagle took a half step toward him, and for a breathtaking second, it leaned forward and gently touched his outstretched hand with the hard, curved tip of its beak. The touch was feather-light, a shocking moment of deliberate, gentle contact. It was a thank you. It was a goodbye. Then, with a powerful push of its legs, it launched into the air. Its flight was clumsy at first, The wounded wing held stiffly, but it caught the morning updraft. It circled the cabin once, a dark, regal silhouette against the brilliant sky. It let out a single, piercing cry, not of pain or fear, but of pure, soaring freedom. Ethan watched until it was just a speck, disappearing into the vastness from which it came. He stood alone in the doorway, the silence of the wilderness returning, but it was different now. It was filled with the echo of that cry, with the memory of that touch. He looked at his hand, then up at the empty sky, and felt a profound, quiet shift within his own soul. The world was bigger, more mysterious, and more deeply connected than he had ever known.